Is a grandmother and a retired economist. Now she spends her days preparing for battle.
Є вже готові. Іди сюди. Де коктейлі поставили? Показуй.
Okay.
Сховали.
This is where they make the Molotov cocktails? She says she's going to show us them now.
So that is an excerpt from a CNN profile of a grandmother in Ukraine who is originally showing off, we have blankets available for people, we have pickles and other food for people who might need it. Oh, also, here is where we assemble Molotov cocktails. And there's a little bit more on that topic. Here is what she had to say.
These are the only weapons she has, but she says she's ready to fight. Let those Russian come here, she says. We are ready to greet them.
How did you learn how to make Molotov cocktails?
Google helped, she tells me.
You Googled it.
Of course, she says.
If Russian forces push into the capital here in Kiev, what will you do?
We will beat them. They won't come, she tells us. I believe in our Ukraine. I believe in Ukrainian people. Moments later, she's off.
Off to assemble anti-tank rounds? I don't know. She's got a busy schedule, that grandmother does. But look, obviously she's providing a place for people to come and get a little bit of help, but also she seems very ready to engage in urban combat against the Russians. Obviously, it is badass. Don't want grandmothers to have to be in that sort of situation. Incredibly scared for how this might end up for her. Sabrina, what are your thoughts?
It's very scary, and I also wish that civilians didn't have to engage in this at all, but I think we're seeing that the Ukrainian spirit and morale is very high. I mean, people were predicting that Kyiv was going to fall to Russia within the first 24 hours, 48, 72. And now we're approaching almost a week now, and it's still under Ukrainian control. I don't know what the future holds, but I think a lot of people are happily surprised that they've been, holding down the fort quite successfully.
Yeah, they very much have been. Apparently, higher morale than was expected. We'll get into a couple different reasons why they've been doing better than originally was predicted. But I want to I apologize if it's a bit of a tangent, but I just want to briefly say, look, so these sorts of videos are fascinating to me because they give us a view of what the experience is like. For regular people who are experiencing this. And I'm glad that we have access to it. In this particular case, I'm glad that CNN has reporters on the ground in Ukraine that can do this. But I will say that we don't have video of a grandmother making Molotov cocktails for all conflicts, but that does not mean that the people there don't resist invaders as vigorously and as bravely in all cases, and even grandmothers in Iraq and Afghanistan and Yemen and all of that. This is the sort of thing that you can expect to happen when you invade someone's country and they rightly see you as an invader. We have engaged in multiple wars like this over the past few decades and been shocked to find out that not everyone openly just invited us into their homes as a result of that. People like the territorial integrity and sovereignty of their nations. It doesn't mean that nobody doesn't want to be saved from a horrible leader or something, but you will not always see video like this. That doesn't mean that the spirit isn't the same. So let's bear that in mind in the future when our country tries to sell us on wars that we might engage in. So sorry for the little tangent, Sabrina, but I just want to make sure people zoom out of it.
It's important. It's absolutely important to mention that. I think it's important to condemn imperialism, is even when your own country is doing it, especially right now. It's a little bit scarier as we are dealing with Russia, a superpower with nuclear capability. So maybe that's why that's one of the reasons this is getting a little bit more attention. But you're right, there is not video on other civilians making their Molotov cocktails when this happens to them. We don't always have that.
Exactly. Yeah. Even in very similar situations, trying to throw Russia out of their country. I mean, that has happened multiple times. There are multiple conflicts ongoing right now. And there's bravery in trying to fight off Invaders in those cases. Now, we do have a little bit more video, and this really gets to what you were just saying about the fact that the defense has been far more vigorous than had been expected. Here's a little bit more. This is a senior international correspondent for CNN, Matthew Chance, showing the apparently relatively fresh, smoldering ruins of a convoy of vehicles.
There has been a ferocious battle here on the outskirts of Kiev, and this is one of those Russian Soviet-era vehicles which is completely burned out. You can see this is a bridge, actually, is an access point to the northwest of Kiev, the Ukrainian capital. And the Russian column that has come down here has been absolutely hammered. Obviously, we're still in a very exposed situation right now, but if I can just bring you along here, there's the debris everywhere, the twisted metal of these vehicles. This is obviously just a truck carrying supplies. We saw the armored vehicle in front there. I mean, looking around, absolutely, look at this. I mean, what kind of munitions does it take to do that to a car, to a vehicle? You know, the thing is, what's happened over the past couple of days since this invasion begun is that the Ukraine. Oh, actually, I was crouching down right by a grenade there. Look, I didn't see that. So let's move away from that. Look, I mean, you've got the Ukrainian military that is battle hardened from its fight in the east of the country. They've been fighting Russians and Russian-backed rebels in that region for a long time, and so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and that is a great point. Obviously, the battles in the eastern portion of Ukraine over the contested territories has provided some training for this. In theory, it also provides some training for the Russians. That doesn't yet seem to have really manifested. But that said, Sabrina, that's sort of the good news from the perspective of Ukraine. We're going to have some bad news, but what did you make of that?
It seems weird to see kind of like a lot of this reporting on just like how badly like the Russians are absolutely being just obliterated by Ukraine, because it's still a very sad loss of life. And granted, obviously Russia should not be invading Ukraine whatsoever. But like, I mean, we were just comparing like Ukrainian morale to like Russian morale. Like a lot of what we're seeing is it's a lot of like young Russian troops, and there are some videos out there that they seem confused as to why they're there, or they don't want it. They didn't know why they didn't know that they were going to be killing Ukrainians. So it does make me quite sad to, even though like what kind of weaponry is being used here to just annihilate people like this. It's not a good, happy thing.
Yeah, you're totally right. In that video, in the variety of videos I've seen, not only did they seem surprised that they're there, but also seem surprised by the response that they were getting. They had apparently, some at least, have been sold propaganda that they are going to be seen as liberators. You know, what historic situations does that remind you of? And they're just shocked that no, the Ukrainians don't want Russia taking over their territory. And I don't greet with happiness any of the deaths on the Russian side either. I haven't seen any polls, but I have to assume that most of those Russian soldiers, very young like ours, probably would prefer to not invade another country. They'd probably prefer to be safe in Russia. But as in our conflicts, it's not up to them. It's up to the people who will profit, win or lose, that have no real stakes in the game. It's disgusting. That said, it is possible that in the near future, the situation might change, because while initially Russia's having more trouble than was predicted taking territory, holding on to things like airports in some small cities, there's apparently a more than 40-mile long Russian convoy, including armored vehicles, that is moving towards the Ukrainian capital. So it was originally believed to just be 17 miles, now 40 miles. That is a lot of firepower there, a lot of troops, a lot of vehicles. And it's not the only other reason to be worried as well. So Kharkiv, that's one of the larger cities in Ukraine, is still under Ukrainian control, but is described as surrounded by their mayor. Cluster munitions have been alleged to be used in residential areas of Kharkiv just yesterday, killing civilians. It's just add that to the list of the war crimes that they are guilty of. And so Volodymyr Zelensky has been pointing out that is effectively state-sponsored terrorism to use those sorts of munitions in a residential area. They're also firing munitions, including cruise missiles, very close to government buildings. And as a result of that, the situation is just very tense. Who knows what could happen with Kharkiv in just the next few days, and when that convoy eventually hits Kyiv, what's going to happen as a result of that? Very worried about the next period.
Yeah, I like a lot of people don't know what's going to happen. I hope that the locals can continue to hold down the fort, but that is a huge convoy. That is really, really scary. And it's got to be so hard to, be a Ukrainian in that situation. And, their officials are just begging other countries for help. And the most that other countries can do right now is just offer humanitarian aid and like some military aid. But it would just be so catastrophic if another country actually did put boots in the ground in Ukraine. So this is just obviously it's so much worse for the actual Ukrainians, but it is also hard to watch from the outside, knowing that there's so little that we can do.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.